I wanted to come and say hi to Felix because he was out crawling on this branch and he decided to go and kind of hide under this leaf a little bit. Felix is kind of funny because Felix has absolutely no issue with me at all. He used to be a little bit weary about Josh, but now he's also totally fine with Josh. However, he does not like cameras. I think I've mentioned this before, but for some reason Felix just hates it when there's a camera near him. However, Fiona here really does not seem to mind the camera at all. Fiona also just like warmed up to me a lot quicker than Felix did. Fiona would basically eat right out of my hand like within a month of me owning her, but with Felix it took me over a full year to get him to eat out of my hand. Alright, hello everyone and welcome back to another Monday vlog. I'm having a lot of fun with these so far, so hopefully you guys have been enjoying them. So in my vlog last week, I was mostly updating you guys about things going on with eggs because I had a lot to update you guys on when it came to like my cat gecko eggs and my thacodactylus eggs. And speaking of eggs, I have some even more updates for this video. But I have some other things that I want to talk about first. In my last vlog, I talked about how I wanted to show you all some new enclosures that I've been working on, such as these enclosures that you see like right beside / behind me here. So we're gonna go ahead and get started with that, and then I'm going to give you guys some very exciting news about my cat geckos, their eggs, and the babies. So let's start out by talking about these two big enclosures right here. So these are some new enclosures that I recently built for Felix, who you can see right there, and Fiona, my Parsons chameleons. So some of you may remember that Felix and Fiona used to live in reptibreeze cages. So what I did for their old enclosures was I took two extra large reptibreeze cages, which measure 2 by 2 by 4, and then I put them side by side and I took out the side pieces to make it basically one larger enclosure that measured 4 feet by 2 feet by 4 feet. So Fiona and Felix lived in those enclosures for about a year and they did pretty well in them. However, Felix and Fiona are still growing. They were not full grown when I got them. They were still quite small. So as they continued to get bigger, I knew that I wanted to build them larger enclosures and also just enclosures that worked more functionally for Parsons chameleons because their old reptibreeze enclosures were really bad when it came to drainage. So I knew that I wanted to make them some new enclosures, but you know, I wasn't exactly sure what I wanted to do. Anytime it comes to enclosures, you know, you have the option of buying one or making your own. However, when it comes to enclosures that are this large, buying one is extremely expensive. So obviously the cost was a big factor in me deciding to build my own. However, I also just kind of wanted to because lately I've really been enjoying building things and I would, you know, love to keep practicing and building more things in the future. So I decided to go ahead and build these enclosures myself. So everything that you see right here was completely designed out by myself and built by myself. I had literally no help with these enclosures other than getting some help carrying some of the wood down the stairs. And now it did also take me quite a while to finish these enclosures. I definitely could have done it faster, you know, if I had just more money and was willing to, you know, spend longer amounts of time on this. However, I did just kind of do it at my own pace and I did them over the span of 2 months. So I started these enclosures back in February and I ended up finishing them at some point in April. So now let's talk about the actual enclosures themselves. So these enclosures are made entirely out of wood, which I then went and covered with Drylock. So by painting the entire enclosure with Drylock, I basically made the entire thing waterproof. You can see that I didn't paint this stand here, and that's basically just because I ran out of Drylock. I probably will go and paint it soon, but ideally no water is going to be touching the stand anyway, so I wasn't too worried about that, but this one here did get painted. So the entire length of both of these enclosures here is 10 feet. So each enclosure is 5 feet wide, they're 3 feet deep, and then they're 6 feet tall. You know, if I am standing like directly in front of the enclosure here, it is quite a bit taller than me. I am not an overly tall person. I am only 5'3", so these enclosures are pretty tall. So both of these enclosures are hooked up to a Mist King system, and you know, I have lots of live plants and branches in here. And when I say lots, I guess I mean not that many, because there's only 4 plants in here right now. And then it is also the same thing in Fiona's enclosure. So along the top here, you can see we have the Mist King hooked up, and then we have her plants and branches all throughout the enclosure as well. So this is how they're set up right now, but I definitely plan on doing a lot more to them. You can see right over here that I've been making some like trees to go in these enclosures. So I attached these like giant pieces of manzanita wood to these like white bases, and then I can screw them into the bottom of the enclosure. So these are still going to be going in there. And then I would also love to add a bunch more plants. You know, I installed these like wooden dowels inside the enclosure, so then this way I can hang plants from them. And ideally I want to get substrate in these enclosures. You know, right now it's all just bare bottom, but ideally I would like to install a small drainage layer and then get some substrate in and be able to go full on bioactive with these. I think that that would be super cool, and I really want to get a lot of interesting plants added in here because there's just so much room for me to do that. You know, these enclosures are like extremely roomy, so I think that I will have a very fun time planting these. So for now, this is what Fiona's new enclosure looks like, and this is what Felix's enclosure looks like. Overall, I'm extremely happy with how these enclosures turned out, and I'm so excited to see how they look once I get more plants and stuff added in. I think that they will be just beautiful. And I'm also just super proud of these enclosures. You know, these are the first enclosures that I built entirely on my own, and so far they seem to be pretty good. You know, I haven't had any issues with them, no leaking water or anything like that, so far so good. So while we're here, let's also do a little update on Fiona, because those of you who have been following along for a little bit will know that I attempted to breed Felix and Fiona back in December. So unfortunately, I have not yet gotten any eggs from Fiona, and I was expecting her to lay during April or May. So it is still possible that she could lay eggs, like it's not totally out of the question. However, I'm starting to get a little less hopeful that she will. If she doesn't lay any eggs, that is completely fine, you know. Things don't always work out exactly how you want them to, and you know, if she doesn't lay any eggs this year, then that's okay, and I will try again later on, and hopefully we'll have success eventually. You know, obviously it'll be extremely exciting if I find eggs, but you know, I'm not gonna be disappointed if I don't. And now, some of you may be wondering what happened to my leaf-tailed geckos, because they used to live right in between my 2 Parsons chameleons, and obviously they don't fit there anymore, so I just moved them right over here. So now they are next to just my blue-tongued skink and Lex, my bearded dragon. So my 2 leaf-tailed geckos, my Uroplatus fimbriatus, are currently living in this enclosure right here. This is a 2x2x4 Zen habitat. However, if you follow my channel, you'll probably know that I'm not a huge fan of these enclosures. I don't really think they're very good quality. I've had quite a lot of issues with it. So I do plan on replacing this sometime soon. However, it's not like a top priority of mine because this enclosure does still work for the animals, but I would really like to get something better in the near future. Okay, so now that we have talked about these chameleon enclosures for long enough, let's go ahead and move on to a few other enclosures that we'll talk about quickly, and then we're going to talk about the eggs and geckos. So Sandwich, my chubby frog, recently got an enclosure makeover. So this enclosure here has a dry lock background. Now this background here was one of the first that I ever made, so it's not really meant to be anything other than just a background, I guess, so I don't love it, but it's fine. So this enclosure here is pretty simple, but it works extremely well for Sandwich. Ever since I moved Sandwich into this enclosure, I've seen him being way more active than he used to be. He comes out to hunt, it's super cute, and he's almost always just chilling under that little piece of bark right there whenever he's not doing anything. Hello, Sandwich. And then right below Sandwich, we also have a new enclosure for my salamanders. So I previously had these guys set up in a bin and they did really well that way. However, I ended up with this enclosure becoming available, so, you know, I thought, why not move them into a nicer looking Exoterra? So this is their water area here, and now it might look like it's really dirty, but it is not. The brown water is simply because of tannins from the wood that's in there, which gives it that, you know, dark appearance, but I can promise you the water is not dirty. It's hard to see because of this pothos right here, but there is actually a filter in it, so all of this water does get filtered and cleaned. Again, the brown color is just tannins. So this enclosure right here is now where my 3 Oida salamanders live, and I'll be completely honest, it does work for them. However, this isn't how I want their permanent setup to be. In a setup like this, I can't really breed them. These salamanders do have some specific requirements that would require a different setup in order for them to be bred. So this works for them if I'm wanting to care for them just as pets, but if I want to breed them, I'm going to have to change some things. However, it's not an immediate plan of mine. I will probably aim to do this for next year, so then I can focus some more attention onto breeding these guys. Okay, so now that I've showed you all of my new enclosures that I wanted to give you guys an update on, let's go ahead and talk about the cat gecko eggs and babies. So last week in my update, I had 2 cat gecko babies and I had 3 eggs incubating. I started with 4, but one of them did unfortunately go bad, so last week, I only had 3 of them. Well, something really exciting happened over the weekend and 2 of my cat gecko eggs hatched. So now I have 4 cat gecko babies. Thankfully, the eggs hatched completely successfully. The babies seem to be pretty healthy, so things are looking good. So let's go ahead and check out the baby enclosures. So these 2 enclosures right here belong to my baby cat geckos who I've had for about a month now. These 2 enclosures right down here now belong to the brand new babies. So cat geckos are a nocturnal species of gecko, and they're also pretty shy, and you know, the babies of course are pretty fragile, so because of that I'm not going to be taking the babies out right now to show you. However, I will show you some footage of when I weighed the babies, you know, when getting them set up in their enclosure. Both of the babies hatched out at 1.7 grams. So this gecko right here is the first one that hatched. So I found him on Saturday morning. When I first came down on Saturday morning, this little guy right here was completely out of the egg, but the other egg was still, you know, not hatched at all. There was like not even a little crack or anything in it. It was just this guy hanging around. And what a little cutie they are. Oh, they're just so adorable. I love these guys so much. And then we have this one right here who is so feisty. Oh my god, this one has been extremely feisty since the minute he hatched. Like, as soon as I opened the container and I saw him there, he was just already looking at me with his mouth wide open and his tail all in a threat posture. So this guy is a little sassy one. So this was the second baby here, so I ended up finding this guy on Saturday evening. So, you know, it truly is just such an honor being able to have these little baby creatures in my care. It's so special. Alright, we're gonna put you back home now because I don't think you like it out here. However, the babies hatching this weekend were not the only exciting thing to happen with cat geckos. There is another exciting thing. So you might remember me saying how I had 3 cat gecko eggs and then 2 of them hatched. But here I am again with 3 cat gecko eggs. So last night I came down to my pet room and I saw Sage, who is my newest female cat gecko, digging in her dig box. So Sage is actually in this bin setup right here. So this was her quarantine setup, but it has now been long enough that she can be down in my reptile room. I just still haven't changed her setup yet. But I noticed last night that Sage was in her dig box digging around, so you know, I left her alone, and then I came back and checked this morning, and I found 2 more cat gecko eggs. So now I did take a look at these eggs, and I do actually suspect that they may be infertile. However, the eggs themselves look really good, so I decided to go ahead and try to incubate them still, and you know, if they're not fertile, I'll be able to tell soon enough, and if they are, then hopefully they will incubate well and we'll get some more cat gecko babies. So there is that. That is super exciting, but then I have some other news about my other female cat gecko, Sadie. So Sadie right now is also carrying eggs. There's just like so many cat gecko eggs going on, and I'm so excited. So I will insert this photo right here so that you can see what I mean. But it is pretty easy to tell that Sadie has eggs inside of her. So hopefully she will lay those soon, and then if I successfully get some babies from Sadie and Slinky, they're going to be completely unrelated to the babies that I have right now. So that is really exciting. Alright, so with all of that said, I think I'm just gonna go ahead and end the vlog here. This feels like a good time to say goodbye. So thank you so much for watching. I do really hope that you enjoyed it, and I hope you enjoyed this update on my animals enclosures and more cat gecko babies. I am thrilled about all of this, so hopefully you guys are as well. If you did enjoy this video, it would mean a ton to me if you gave it a big thumbs up, and also subscribe to my channel for more. I post a vlog every Monday and then another video every Thursday, so I would love to have you guys around for that. Also be sure to check out all of my social media. Everything is just EmmaSam99. I would love to have you guys over there, so make sure you do that. And once again, thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you all on Thursday.